us Catholics need to be thinking about ourselves in a new way.
Does it feel sometime like you're losing the battle and life is a disappointment?
We got to have the courage to say that there's something missing.
The Lord is interested in giving to us His power so that we can live a new way of life.
What are we called to be? We're called to be saints and missionaries. There's something in us after meeting Christ that makes us want to tell others.
The Lord wants to speak through you and use you and stir you.
This universal call to mission is a revolution.
As we hear the Spirit, He recreates us and we become new people.
This is it. This is all what it's all about.
Hey, welcome to another week of The Choices We Face. We've asked Craig Pohl to come back this week. You know, last week we heard this amazingly wonderful story about how the Lord saved you, you know, in darkness and despair and rejection and discouragement. And now this week we want to talk a little bit about how the Lord is now using you to try to reach other young men and women who are facing a lot of the struggles too.
Great. It's great to be back.
Well, it's good to have you. Now, I know one of the things that you've been involved in is this annual youth rally we do in Toronto called Lift Jesus Higher Rally. It actually has a youth section and an adult section. And how'd you get involved in that, and what goes on up there?
Well, you know, there's a gathering of close to 1,000 young people. I think it's 12 to 18, I think is the age range. And I actually got involved with it through you guys.
Yeah, you used to work for Renewal Ministries.
That's right.
Now you're working for some great parishes in the Diocese of Lansing.
Yeah.
We didn't fire you.
No.
You were led by the Spirit to another opportunity.
Well, I consider my time with Renewal Ministries to be the really training period, you know, and as part of that, being involved with the Lift Jesus Higher Rally was just a phenomenal experience for me to get involved with what's really cutting edge in the church right now and what's happening, especially on that level with the youth. Just seeing that many kids gathered in Toronto from all different parts of Canada and just proclaiming the gospel message.
You know, they put a great team together, Ralph. You know, the way we do the rallies, you guys know, there's the youth section, and just on the other side of the wall is the adult section of the whole thing. And I'd sneak over there periodically, you know, throughout the day. And Craig just did a fabulous job leading the young people and the team that he brought, the team of young people, college age, high school age, young people witnessing. I was amazed at how responsive they were. And as the day went on through skits and testimony and teaching and music and preaching, the kids really got engaged and they really encountered the Lord on the day.
Well, you know, I'm really impressed, Peter, with our Canadian brothers and sisters who, we have a branch of Renewal Ministries in Canada and a branch in the United States, and we both out of those branches, we serve many countries around the world. But I'm so impressed by the hardworking brothers and sisters in Toronto area and other places in Canada who just serve and pray and give in so many ways to make this mission possible. You know, the little team that organizes the Lift Jesus Higher rallies. I mean, I think they're the best team in the world. I don't
They're
know
so
another
dedicated
team
and
that
they're smart, strategic, super hardworking, and they do it all for the Lord. They really do. They put a phenomenal number of hours. People say, well, nobody comes out to Catholic events anymore, and these guys bring in 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 people every year.
Because how hard they work,
of the hard work,
how hard they pray, and how much they love. Well, anyway, we actually do some video up there, and we've got some video, Craig, of this youth rally that we just recently did. We're going to take a look at it, and then we're going to talk about what's going on there.
Great.
And you guys have all heard a lot of stories today. You've heard a lot of people come and tell you their stories about how they know God or how God was working in their life. And I'm sure you all have your own story and your own story of how God is working in your life. And it's really important because God is the only person who knows everything. He's been with you through the thick and thin, the bad, the good, the ugly. He's been there for when you had your happiest moment. He's been there when you had your saddest moment. He's been there through it all. He's been right by your side this whole time. And it's important that you guys turn to Him right now. This is the perfect opportunity. It's stuff like this, like these conferences that save you. You have to take your chance and take opportunities and treat this like it's like the last moment of your life. You know, lean into God right now. He knows what you've been through. He knows everything. So let Him pick you back up and let Him lead you through life.
And guys, from that moment on, I just made a decision. I said, you know what? I don't ever want to do that again. I don't ever want to reject or deny the one who saved me, the one who died for me, the one who just loves me. I don't ever want to get to that place again. And I just said, you know what? I'm not going to do this. I'm going to stand up for God whenever I have to. And all the time, for that matter. I'm just going to, and it was always stand up, because I didn't stand up. That was always my mental image. I am going to stand up for Jesus. And so I started doing it as I started praying. I would start praying every day or so. I would say, Lord, give me an opportunity to stand up for you. Lord, do this. And the only reason I could do that wasn't because I got embarrassed in front of my mom or anything like that. That's not ultimately the reason I could do it. It was because I knew that he loved me, and I knew, just like one of the earlier talks said, that he has my back. I trusted. After all the injuries I'd been through, he had brought me all the way through these injuries, so I knew that I could trust him. And so I knew that if I stood up for him, and I got knocked down, he'd be the first one to pick me right back up. And so when I started praying, I said, Lord, just give me opportunities. Give me opportunities to stand up for you. So the rest of the way through high school, it wasn't easy. I'm not going to pretend like it was easy or that it just worked every time and that I just automatically, like, anyone asked anything about Jesus, I'm like, oh, that's me, you know? Like, I got something for you. No, that wasn't what it was like, but I was there, I was ready. I wanted to stand up for him. I was looking for opportunities. So we go through high school, senior year comes around, and my friends and I decided, you know what, enough is enough. We know the truth, and it's time that we start really living it and spreading it and telling people, especially our high school classmates. So we started doing retreats and we started giving talks, and the Lord just worked powerfully. And it's hard to explain, but when you're moving in His Spirit and you're moving in the power of His love, things happen, guys. Things happen. You can count on that when you do the Lord's work and do His will, you'll see good results. So, I'm challenging you right now. I'm giving you this opportunity. If you want to stand up for God, and if you want to accept His love, please stand up with me right now.
Hey, it's great to see young people getting excited about the Lord.
Yeah, it's just remarkable. And you saw the clip there where they were putting their little sticky notes on the cross. And actually, we asked them all if they're ready to make a new commitment to God in their lives, to take it that next step. Mm-hmm. Put your name on that sticky note and put it on the cross. Oh, yeah. And it was interesting because it started off really slow.
Yeah.
Just a few people kind of started standing up, and the pad was being passed among the crowd. And next thing you know, a whole horde of them just came out. And I think, as far as we could tell, everybody had a sticky note, and it took a lot longer than what we intended it to take. But it was great to see them, make that commitment in that way.
Yeah. Now, you've had a heart for reaching youth for a long time, ever since the Lord reached you. And tell us a little bit about where you see young people are at today and what you encounter as you work with young people in the parishes that you're working in.
I really think that in one respect, very little has changed since the very beginning. People need to know that they're loved. Mm-hmm. And I think that in today's culture, the culture is telling you need to do certain things and be a certain thing in order to be loved. And the very definition of love has been contorted and twisted to the point of it doesn't make sense anymore, so I just have to reach after this obscure understanding of what love is. And so I think what we have is an identity crisis. Mm-hmm. We have an understanding of love, and we have an understanding of ourselves that are incompatible. Mm-hmm. And once we bring those together, by whatever means, that's when we can start taking the first steps.
You know, Craig, you built this outreach to young people years ago called the Ark. Why don't you just describe that a little bit and what you learned there? Because you've talked to me about it, and I thought it was quite powerful what happened there.
Yeah, you know, one thing, first of all, everybody has that desire for the truth. And we're, you know, this is what we've come to proclaim, is the truth. And the truth is a person of Jesus Christ. And I began working youth ministry, and I realized I had spent the vast majority of my time in the office. And I'm thinking, what is this, you know?
Yeah.
So I said, you know, I'm gonna have to go outside my comfort zone, and I'm gonna have to get into the world of the students, of the kids of the parish. So I said, all right, I'm gonna just go and walk in the hallways, just see what happens. And boy, did I feel weird. Just, you know, they're looking at me, what is that guy doing here? You know, he's kind of creepy. And so I said, you know, I'm anyway, so I just said, well, I'll start substitute teaching, you know, so I'll have a relevance of some kind within the house. And so as I was doing this substituting, I started getting to know the kids, and they started getting to know me. And I started being able to reach out to them, and I found that when you meet them on their ground, it changed everything in the way that ministry happened. Oftentimes, all you had to do was be present to them, and you had to show them that they were loved without even doing anything. And it kind of goes back to, you know, what the culture and all of this, saying that you have to do all this in order to be loved. No, I think we have to witness that they don't. They don't. And it actually inspires them to be better and to make good decisions. And so from that, you know, as I took this to prayer, and honestly, it was on my knees in prayer, I remember the very moment where I asked the Lord, what do you want? How do we reach out to these kids? And I heard, you know, in my heart, I heard him say, go where they are. There was an old building on the street corner in Westphalia, and Westphalia is a small town here in Michigan, and it had a vacant building. It was a vacant ice cream shop. So I thought, well, maybe we'll make that into a little youth hangout. We'll serve ice cream, and on Sunday nights we'll have Bible study. So that's what we did. And it was a raging success. It just instantly, you know, because of the connection that I had with the high school, the kids started saying, yeah, okay, we know Craig. You know, let's go hang out with them on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights, and the place would be packed. Next thing you know, there was a bar right adjacent to it. We ended up shutting that bar down, and we opened that up for ministry as well. And now the place is totally redone. It's 2 buildings right next to each other, and we hold Bible studies and social events and things like this, where young people can come in a non-threatening atmosphere. They have an option when they go out on Friday and Saturday nights, or even weeknights, to come and spend time at a place that won't necessarily confront them with a lot of the things we know society is throwing at them.
Yeah, that's really great. And it sounds like it was an inspiration to become a substitute teacher. That was like an important step in terms of connection with the kids. And it's like the Lord gave you a sense, you know, about how that would really help you kind of make the connection.
Yeah, I think, you know, one of the things that that I had followed from the beginning was, and this again came through prayer and asking the Lord, tell me the next step, was that in every situation, as he says, where sin abounds, grace abounds all the more, he opens doors. And it's being able to recognize that door and walk through it. And even though it wasn't the most comfortable, any advice I would give to any youth ministers out there, anyone who wants to touch the youth, you have to get into their world. You have to find a way to be present to them. Go to their games, find out what they're interested in, go to their school, however you can show your face, and then they'll begin approaching you. And it was that substitute teaching which I think was the open door, where I was thinking, this might be a back door, but we're going to get in there and familiarize ourselves with this.
You said the Lord told you to become a substitute teacher and to build an ark. He said, go build an ark, and so you built the ark. But anyway, back to the ark for a minute, it became not only a place to socially hang out with one another, but you described at one point to me the kind of questions they started raising and the dialogue that happened. I want you to share a little bit about that.
You know, we set up a room in the back. It was right behind the ice cream shop, and kids would come in, and you wouldn't even know the room was back there if you didn't know the building. But kids would come in, we'd have somebody up front serving ice cream, of soft serve and all these different things, and you know, the people at the counter would say, hey, there's Bible study in the back, just check it out. And they'd open up this door, and here's this enormous room in the back, and we just threw beanbags, couches, end tables, lamps, and there was a little pool table in the back. Mm-hmm. And you could comfortably sit about 65 people back there. Well, kids were just laying around, eating French fries and ice cream and all this stuff, and we'd just open up the scripture and have a conversation. And on a lot of levels, I think barriers were brought down with the kids. We actually encouraged them to ask those questions that they, for whatever reason, felt uncomfortable asking. Mm-hmm. Does God really exist? You know, this is a fundamental question before we start talking about the great life that Christ has come to bring. We have to answer these fundamental questions.
Yeah, that's really good. Well, we're going to take a little break right now. When we come back, I'm going to direct us to ask the question about everybody has some young people in their life. You know, it could be sons and daughters, it could be nieces and nephews, it could be cousins, it could be neighbors, it could be whoever. And what can people who are in contact with young people, and almost everybody is in some way or another, do to show love and to reach out to them?
It's great to see that the mission of Franciscan is reflected in the academic pursuits of its students. I'm double majoring in theology and mathematics. It just helps because in math you can see causality, chain of thinking, and things in the material realm that can be applied to the spiritual. Everyone here really wants to be a saint. You know, there's just no better place to grow in my manhood, to grow in my faith, and to grow in my intellect. Franciscan University is academically challenging and passionately Catholic.
Hey, welcome back. Before we took our little message break here, we were talking about how ordinary folks who are concerned about young people can make a contribution, because not everybody can be a youth leader, right. Not everybody can, put on a youth event, or not everybody can even go into youth environments, but everybody's got young people in their life in some way or another, either regularly or periodically. And one thing that somebody told me once that I think is really important is they say, get over your fear of talking to teenagers. And just express interest in them. Go up and talk to them, go up and ask them how they're doing, and they may not choose to open up to you about the deep, dark secrets of their teenage hearts, but they're going to know that somebody cares about them, and somebody is for them, and somebody is interested in them. And that's going to give them a positive doorway to the adult world, a positive doorway to the church world. And everybody, talk to your nieces and nephews, talk to your neighbors, talk to the folks who are across your life, and just express love to them, just express friendship to them, just let them know you're for them and you're interested in them.
Well, people say they avoid it because it feels so awkward, and part of the reason it feels awkward is because there's mutual sort of insecurity and fear. I mean, the kids sometimes they're like, like they don't want to respond, and so you say, well, they don't want to talk to me anyway. Look at them, they don't want to talk to me. Just all that is most of the time is just a facade that's rooted in insecurity and in social awkwardness themselves.
Yeah, they're
just
hiding.
Look right beyond that.
They're hiding in their culture,
right?
Because they don't feel secure on their own.
And just look beyond and go right to their heart, and just love them, and so.
Yeah, Ralph, you ask, what can everyone do?
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer that no one can do anything without prayer. Anything. I mean, and we all know this. This is the foundation of our vitality in Christ. And if we're not prayerful people, if we're not listening to Christ, then we will be irrelevant. And I think as you pray, as you take, let's say you have a particular young person that you want to affect in a positive way. Maybe you need to bring the gospel message to them in a particular way. First, start committing them to prayer. That's really the secret. I don't know why it's a secret, but to some people, this is a revelation.
Yeah, that's really important. Yeah, I think the intercessory prayer of people for other people, including people who have prayed for us, have saved our lives.
Yeah, no question. And and then I've seen this happen where because of the grace of that prayer in my own life, and I can identify the moments where I behaved differently, knowing that it was the graces operative in my life at that time. And I have one example. I was substitute teaching, and there was a particular young man who was really out of control. And I said, take your science books out and read this chapter, and I'm just the messenger, just do what the teacher wants you to do. And he took a motorcycle magazine out and he started reading it. And I said, hey, so-and-so, it would be probably prudent if you didn't read that and read your science book. And he really was kicking against it. So I took the motorcycle magazine away from him, and he just sat there the whole class just like this, staring at me. I mean, it was cold. The class was over, and he came up for his book, and I just said, hey, I started reading an article in here. I can definitely tell you're into bikes, and I actually used to be into bikes as well. What's your favorite bike? Talk about a change. The kid's face lit up, and from that point on, I think I was his best friend.
Wow, isn't that great?
Yeah. And he was one of the students that was right on the fringe.
Yeah.
Took an interest in his life.
Yeah, showing an interest in what he was interested in. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
I think also everybody can do something. It's the thing I keep thinking as we're talking. I have a friend who, a number of years ago, kind of had a new kind of awakening in his faith. And he said, look, he really surrendered his life to the Lord is what happened. He got converted even though he was nominally a Christian all his life. And when he did, he said, what do I want to do? In his heart, he was always involved in sports. And he started getting involved in coaching. He said, one of the things I'm pretty good at is coaching. He started coaching young kids. And he said, what we do? We'd pray, just say a little prayer before practice. And just introduce them, get to know them, get involved in their lives. And then he was having breakfast with some friends one morning, and he said, a lot of these young high school kids need a place they could hang out that's just a safer place and a better place. And one guy says, I got a barn out at my place. It's actually in pretty good shape. And he said, probably needs some fixing up. And my friend looked around and said, hey, how about if we all just pitch in a little money? We can all do something. Let's fix up that barn and put a little sound system in there and do this. And that's what they ended up doing. So they all pitched in. They all had a resource. They all had a gift. They all had a talent. But they all had they had different talents, but they had one concern. We want to love those kids. We want to care for those kids. And they just supported one another to the degree they were able to provide something similar to the ark. And, that's something we can all do. We can all understand we have a place to play, a place to contribute if we open our hearts to it.
Yeah, and the gospel message really does boil down to a relational ministry. We can't rely on just instituting a new structure or a new program. We can't package this. Yeah. It's different for every person, and every person is being called to it. Yeah. Every person has particular gifts, but we have to open up that gift through prayer, through the sacraments, through living a good, convicted life for the Lord.
And let's not forget financial giving.
Yeah, that's right.
We need to support youth ministers. We need to pay them a decent salary. We need to make it a priority.
Yeah, and I think, that's something I think the church is actually prudently addressing right now, is that, when you have a great youth minister and he wants to have a family and all of this, they are starting to step up to the plate and say, hey, what they're doing is essential to the vitality of this church and all this. And they're starting to, bring things more into the mainstream. Mm-hmm. As far as
I was thinking about the two young people that we saw in the video, Peter and Kelsey. They're both part of, they were in a local Catholic high school here, and the principal that came in, they decided to start having Kairos retreats, like 3 or 4 days long for the seniors, and faculty got involved, and they had a campus minister that they invested some money in, a part-time campus minister who really spearheaded that stuff and had a vision for it and got the kids really excited about it. And there's two fruits of that ministry. And their parents had a big impact, their parish had a big impact. It takes a village, right, and all that kind of thing. But the school had a significant contribution, and they were able to raise money to support a part-time youth minister who had a huge impact. On my own son Michael, the youth minister, had a very big impact. And a number of kids, I think 3 or 4 boys from that class alone are in the seminary. Mm-hmm. Because they had a major conversion experience along the lines that young man was describing on the video, Peter. So.
Well, I want us to kind of bring this all together for people, but first we're going to hear a message from Peter, because Peter's written a booklet called Is Real Change Possible? And because of the generosity of supporters of Renewal Ministries, we can actually give this to you at no cost, just for the asking. So listen to the message. This booklet could really help you. And then when we come back, we're going to pull it all together and ask ourselves, what can each and every person who's with us today do to help reach youth for Christ?
All around us, people are talking about change, economic, social, political, and even climate change. But ask yourself, is real, lasting change even possible? The change we need and desire the most is a transformation of heart. But the truth is, few of us believe this change is possible because we're so often dominated by anger, fear, and even hopelessness.
Jesus promises us real change. My new booklet, Is Real Change Possible?, provides practical wisdom to help you tap into Jesus' life-transforming power. To receive this booklet free of charge, please call us at 1-800-282-4789, visit us online at renewalministries.net, or write to the address on your screen.
Hey, Peter, thank you for an inspiring offer.
You're welcome.
Okay. We only got a few minutes. What have we not mentioned that could be helpful to people?
Well, I think, there's also the flip side of working this type of ministry, and again, a ministry that we're all called to is reaching out in some way to the people in our lives, whether they're youth or adults, but in particular to the youth. First off, I think, I have to remind myself how big of an impact it was when someone older than me invited me to something. Mm-hmm. And I think there's something really big to be said for taking those opportunities where something good is going on in the church to invite a young person along. Mm-hmm. Even if it's just, that one person, just say, hey, why don't you come to this event or this talk or whatever it might be. That's really important to a young person. Yeah.
Or maybe pointing out to a young person, hey, look, they're having a youth retreat at the parish this weekend. Would you like to go,
Yeah, I mean, it is important. We've been talking, you've mentioned the central importance of getting into the environments young people are in, but it's also good to call them to something, to a place of encounter. Retreats are major areas where kids can get converted. And I was thinking of Pope John Paul II years ago at the turn of the Jubilee, wrote a document with all the bishops of America saying, what does the church most need now? And he said, to engage the mission of evangelization, and he said that begins with everyone coming to a fresh encounter with the living Jesus Christ. And that's really what evangelization is, and that's what the retreat ministry, that's what the ARC is, that's what all of that is trying to create and then support those environments. Yeah. Support it financially, in prayer, administratively, whatever resources you have, get behind it, because the Lord will meet those kids on those places of encounter.
Yeah, and all over the world there's opportunities like this. And like we're so blessed in Canada to have the annual Lift Jesus Higher rally, which every spring we do. And hey, pay for a young person to go to that, or go with a young person.
Or support a young person going on a mission trip someplace.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff is just really, really relevant. And one of the things you told me, Peter, once is that age doesn't matter. Who would ever thought that an 80-year-old pope would be the most effective youth minister the world has ever seen?
I know some
John Paul II.
Honestly, I know some folks in their 60s and late 60s who are very effective with young people.
Yeah, because they love them.
Yeah, they love them. They have a talent.
They
do.
They care for them and they show it.
Yeah, I think we have to be really aware that our primary job, is to bring people to Christ and trust that Christ is going to do what He promises He's going to do.
Well, Craig, thanks so much for being with us today, but even more for giving your life to Christ and for being willing to serve young people like you are. So thanks very much for being here. Pete, thanks again for being here. It's always great to be on the program with you. And
my pleasure.
Until next week, this is Ralph Martin and Peter Herbeck and Craig Pohl, just wishing you the best that life has to offer, which is a relationship with Jesus Christ and a mission that's really meaningful, a vocation that Jesus is calling each one of us to, and all we need to do is keep saying yes.